Hello there, and get ready to dive into one of the most powerful and influential books on strategy that has ever been written.
Welcome to our Good Read series. This is where we break down the wisdom from some of the world's most important books. And today, we are tackling an absolute giant, Sun Tzu's The Art of War. So let's start with the big question, right? How on earth can a book about ancient Chinese warfare, written something like 2,500 years ago, still be a bestseller? I mean, it's required reading for generals, CEOs, even football coaches. What is the secret sauce here? Well, that's what we're here to find out. To really get the book, you have to understand the man behind it. And Sun Tzu, well, he wasn't just some philosopher writing from an ivory tower. According to legend, he was a master strategist who had to prove his wild ideas in what might just be the most intense job interview in history.
Okay, so picture this. The king of Wu says, "All right, Sun Tzu, you talk a big game, let's see you prove it." And the test? To drill 180 of his concubines. So Sun Tzu lines them up, gives the commands, and they just start laughing. Total chaos. So he stops them and says, "Okay, my fault. If the commands aren't clear, the general's to blame." He explains everything again, crystal clear this time, gives the command, and they laugh again. But this time, Sun Tzu's tone changes completely. He says if the orders are clear and they are still disobeyed, then the fault lies with the officers. And with that, he orders the execution of the two women he'd put in charge, who just so happened to be the king's absolute favorites. And you know what? After that, every single drill was performed with terrifying perfection.
Now the king was horrified, of course. He tried to stop it, but Sun Tzu basically said, "Nope, you made me the general. And on the battlefield, the general's word is law, not the king's." This wasn't just about cruelty. It was about establishing a critical principle. A leader needs total authority to be effective. It's a really stark look at the kind of discipline he believed in. So after a story like that, you're probably thinking, this book is all about bloodshed and brutality, right? Well, here's the crazy part. The central, most important idea in The Art of War is actually how to win without having to fight at all. He believed that actual combat was a sign that your strategy had already failed.
Just let that sink in for a second. This one idea completely flips the script. This isn't a book about how to destroy your enemy. It's a book about how to be so smart, so prepared, and so strategic that you get what you want without ever having to throw a punch. In fact, he gives us a literal ranked list of the best ways to win. The absolute best thing you can do? Outsmart your opponent and ruin their plans before they even get started. Second best, keep them from teaming up with their allies. Actually fighting them on a battlefield is way down the list at number 3. And the absolute worst thing you could possibly do? Try to attack a fortified city. So, what's so bad about a siege? Well, it's a total disaster. Sun Tzu saw it as a massive drain of time, money, and most importantly, lives. It takes months just to get ready. And if a general gets impatient and just throws his soldiers at the walls, he could lose a third of them and still have nothing to show for it. The lesson here is pretty clear. A victory that costs you everything isn't a victory at all.
Okay, so if open conflict is a last resort, how do you pull off this whole winning without fighting thing? It doesn't start with bold moves. It starts with something much quieter. Assessment. For Sun Tzu, everything, and I mean everything, is built on a foundation of knowledge. He says that before you do anything, you have to analyze what he calls the 5 constant factors. It's like a pre-game checklist for any conflict. Moral law is basically asking, is your team truly with you? Heaven and earth mean understanding your environment, everything from the weather to the terrain. The commander is about the quality of leadership, and method and discipline is about how well your operation is organized. Sun Tzu says victory is decided before the battle by whichever side understands these 5 things better. And when you've done all that homework, it naturally leads to these 5 essentials for victory. Notice a pattern here? It's all about knowing. Knowing when to engage, knowing your own strengths and weaknesses, knowing your team is unified. It's all about creating an unbeatable advantage before you even make your first move. And all of this leads us to maybe the most famous quote from the entire book. You've probably heard this one before. This isn't just some nice-sounding platitude. It's a formula. Sun Tzu is saying that if you've truly done your research, if you have total information, then victory isn't a gamble, it's a certainty. All right, so you've gathered all your information, you know yourself, you know your enemy. What now? Well, now the real game begins. It's time to use that knowledge to shape your opponent's reality. It's time for deception. It's that simple and that profound.
You win by controlling what the other guy thinks is true. When you're strong, you act weak to draw them in. When you're close, you make it seem like you're far away. The goal is to make them react to a battlefield that you've created entirely inside their head.
He talks about this using two cool concepts, the Qing, which is the direct move, and the Qi, the indirect. Think of it like a boxer's jab and cross. The Qing is the jab. It's the obvious, conventional attack that you want your opponent to see and focus on. It fixes them in place. But while they're dealing with that, you hit them with the Qi, the unexpected, creative, unorthodox move that they never saw coming. That's the knockout punch.
And that's the whole point. You need both. The direct move is just the setup. The indirect move is what brings you the victory. A true master is constantly flowing between the two, keeping the enemy guessing, confused, and always one step behind. So, let's pull all these pieces together. You have the goal of winning without fighting, you have the foundation of deep knowledge, and you have the tool of deception. When you see it all laid out, you realize this book isn't really about war at all. It's a universal blueprint for strategy.
And that's why it's so timeless. The Art of War isn't cheering for conflict. It's a masterclass in how to win, period. Whether it's in a business negotiation, a sports championship, or any other part of life, it teaches you how to be so smart and so prepared that you achieve your goals with the least amount of friction and cost.
If there is one sentence that sums up the entire book, it's this one. A brilliant strategist arranges things so that victory is a sure thing, and only then do they start the fight. A losing strategist just jumps into the fight and then starts hoping they can figure out a way to win. The winner wins before the game even begins.
And that's the question I want to leave you with, this idea of winning before the battle starts. How can we use that in our own lives, in our careers, in our personal challenges? How can we do the preparation and the thinking up front to stack the deck in our favor so that success becomes almost inevitable?
That's our journey into the brilliant strategies of Sun Tzu. Thank you for listening to this Good Reads episode.